Okay, so we're going to wrap up debugging and kind of get more into the behind the scenes stuff that's going on there. So if we look here, now this one screen that as we were debugging, this screen right here, this is called the debug screen. So when we look at that, debug view, it says the debug view shows the programs you are currently debugging and others you are debugging that have terminated. So meaning as we execute each line or each method, it basically will kind of keep pushing us down and keep putting the new ones at the top. It says you will see a Java program entry for each program you debug or debugging. Each of these has a debug target. A debug target is a running instance of the JVM or Java Virtual Machine executing the code. This is debug targets have properties that are useful for understanding context in which the code is executing, such as the main method being executed. Java command line and JVM parameters and class path information. To see this information, we can actually go to the debug view and then select properties from the context menu. So what they're saying is, if we come over here and I were to do a right click on this and go to properties, it now brings up the properties for that particular program. So we can see when it ran, we can see the path that's currently executing. Now when we run Java, the way we've been running Java, it's actually running a program called javaw.exe, which is like a compiler and executing program all in one. This is the working directory where this particular code is actually stored. And then what is currently executing on the command line is this right here. And what it's showing is it's showing the actual item that is being executed, which is the Brandy Bagel House .order calculator GUI. But the one thing I want to point out is this guy right here. It's basically saying what folder is being executed. In this case, it's the bin folder, meaning it's executing the class file. It never executes the Java file. Again, Java is just for humans to read, and then it's converted into object code that only the computer understands, which is the class file, which is stored in the bin folder. Okay, so we can actually see a little bit there, and that's kind of what that debug target properties is all about. Another thing we can do is we can suspend. So it says we can manually suspend it with suspend. The current stack frame is displayed and the line that was executing is selected, and this says that is useful. For example, your program gets into an infinite loop. So we can suspend the program, and then we can actually go in and modify that particular variable that needs to get out of the loop to basically then we can restart it and basically then continue on. Some more on breakpoints. So our JDT provides several kinds of breakpoints: line, method, field, which are called watch points, and Java exception breakpoints. In addition to some of these can have conditional conditions under which they will become enabled or active. The breakpoint view, we'll see that in a second, shows all of the line breakpoints, exception breakpoints, watch points, and method breakpoints defined in our worksheet. So we can go ahead and double click the breakpoint or select go to that file or breakpoint. So come over here. So when we have a breakpoint, we do have this breakpoint view up here. And I can double click that guy and it will take me to that particular line. I can do a right click. I can go to preferences, and I can basically see some information about that particular item as well. So it's basically these are more settings. Oh, go to file for breakpoint. Sorry. So where's up here? There it is. So here's what I can do. So I can actually do a right click on any one of these breakpoints, say go to file, and it will take me directly to that line of code. I can do a right click here, go to file, it takes me to that particular item that we are basically looking at. So it says, hey, this guy right here is basically, that's an action performed, so that's basically an actual action. This guy here is a breakpoint on the process of bagels, when I do a right click and say go to file, it's going to show me where that particular object is defined. So right here, this is a bagel panel class, and we're going to create an object from that called bagels. And if I go up here and do a right click and go to file, it shows me where that particular breakpoint is as well. Okay, so some really neat ways to kind of move around in there. It says if you don't want to bother with source not found dialog when you use the step into. Now what happens is this, is if I'm stepping through my code and I hit a situation where it's going to go into, let's say, the decimal format class. Well, since that is in a WAR file, which is basically like a zip file, it's in a class format which we really can't see. So what will happen is this screen right here will be blank, and it will say source file not basically available, or source file not found, meaning we're actually executing the class file one line at a time. We can't see the code, because in order to see the code we have to have a corresponding Java file. Well, we don't have the Java file for those class files, so it's going to display source not found here. So it's saying if you don't want to see that, we can basically go to the step into or step over, basically he says, but we can also use this thing called filter, which is in the Java debug step preferences under filtering. So that's not it. So what we do is we go into Window, we go into Preferences, and there we can, over here, these are preferences for, this is a whole, we could spend a whole chapter on this, but basically we're going to go into this Java, expand debug, and we're going to go into this thing called step filtering. And in there we can say use step filters and do that, and then we can tell it to, let's see what they said, define your Java debug step preferences under filtering. Let's see what our options are. So here I go into so I can actually go into the class loader. Anyways, so there's a way in here that we can select something and say, hey, don't worry about going into, if you see source not found, just kind of go past that and continue on. But you can probably read more inside of that that nice little PDF file there. I want to kind of bypass that just for time's sake. So now see, these are some of the different breakpoints that we can basically go into. So what we can do is this. Now over here, let me step through this and see if we can get are running right now. Let's see. Let me rerun it. So here we are. We're looking at the outline of the particular program we're currently doing, and so what we can do then is do a right click on one of these guys, and we can get, so one of these things we can do is toggle a watch point. Now, a watch point is a type of breakpoint, but instead of actual breaking, what it does is it allows them to just watch that variable. We can watch it, we can see what's in it, we can see how it's basically modifying, how it's changing, so on and so forth. So well, let me try something else. Let me go here. And, oh, now this one has a toggle method breakpoint. Since I'm using this order calculator, which is a method, if I do right click on that, I can't do a watch point, but I can do a toggle method breakpoint. So I can actually say when we hit that method, automatically break so we can see what's going inside of it. So we'll basically, anytime we call that method, we can break. So watch point, we have a regular line breakpoint. We have a line breakpoint where we can disable it. What we do there is I can do a right click and click on it again, and that turns it off. That's toggle. Toggle means on or off. You click it, it's on, click it, it's off. So and that's pretty much the ones that we'll use. Now, another one we can use is a thing called a Java exception breakpoint. So we've talked about exceptions. So we have a null pointer exception, we have script out of bounds exception. So we have all those different exceptions. So what we can do is come over here to our, where is it now? It's up here somewhere. Oh, come on. Let's step through it and see what we get. Oh, it was right here. I think it's here inside of breakpoint. Yep, there it is. So right over here, if we click on the breakpoints view, we come over here and there's a J there with an exclamation point. You point to us to add a Java exception breakpoint. So we click on that, it's going to show all of the different exceptions. So let's see, is there an out of bounds exception? How about subscript out of bounds? Maybe it's up here. Again, I don't know all of the verbiage for all of the different exceptions. Oh, here it is. Here's a good one. File not found exception. So you can click on that and click OK. And what will happen is anytime we get a file out of bounds exception, it will break and allow us to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes. So the index out of range or null pointer exception, all those we can click on those and say, hey, break, basically toggle a breakpoint before you actually blow up the program so that we can kind of capture that guy as well. So that's another great way. So method breakpoints, watch points. Not worried about that. So we kind of talked about this hot code replace. So again, what we can do is I can actually, as this is running, I can actually come up here to expressions and I can say system.out.println, and I can say, hey, hit the enter key, and notice it basically displays hey down there in the bottom screen. Read it twice because I should have just hit the tab key instead of enter key, but the tab key entered it, and when I hit the enter key again, it entered again. So if I click up in that guy again and hit enter, maybe. Yeah, I think it keeps executing. But anyway, so we can actually go in and do code swap. So I can actually come over here and say something else, and I can I can actually change the code in line. So anyways, I think that's about it. Don't want to talk about remote debugging. But anyways, read this section, read up on it. Again, the main thing you want to be able to do is be able to step through the code line by line by line and figure out what's going on and basically continue from there. Again, if you have any questions, give me a call and we'll try to basically figure this thing out.